Continuation. Hello, everyone. It's Graham Coath, and I'm live with KARMAA. Okay. And before I pressed the live button, we were just having a little conversation about streaming platforms, which I think every guest that's been on has had something to say about streaming platforms. Where are you at with streaming platforms? What's your take on it all?
I think it's interesting how underpaid we are. And then, we get that email from Spotify specifically stating, we can lower the payout, which is already incredibly low. And then they'll push our algorithms a little more. And for me, I'm just like, you're already not pushing our algorithms. You actually killed them, kind of like Instagram and Facebook did. And now you want to pay us less to do so. So I'm a little,
Yeah.
Apple Music, what's up?
Well, and I was saying to you that I've been doing some work with a friend of mine that's creating his own independent platform, and this is where I think the future is going to go with a lot of independent musicians. I think people that are genuine music fans are going to help, who are developers, are going to help musicians claw something back by saying, look, we get it. We get that, some of these platforms have got big reach. They've got to make money at the end of the day. They've got to pay for all of those people sat at those desks. But do you know what I mean? We can do this. We can work off of this technology, and we can provide some platforms to artists so that they can get their stuff out there, and actually get some proper revenue streams back for it again. And it's completely needed, especially at the moment when nobody can actually get out and play live.
Right, absolutely.
Because playing live is for any musician one way that you can carve out some money. But at the moment, if you can't do that, then it's difficult. Having said that, I suppose you can play live kind of online. Have you been looking at that? Have you been thinking about what you might do?
It's just a matter of finding time. I do work 2 jobs, so I need to make the time. But I've seen some other people, they get on there and they perform on Instagram Live or Facebook Live, and it's just one more way to, expand your fan base. Usually when I go on live, I'll pick one of my playlists that has a lot of different indie artists on it, and I'll play their songs as well, just to help, people gain more followers or listeners that way as well.
Well, one of the things that I've done since lockdown is I've invested in a bit of kit called Remo, which is an online platform. And unlike Zoom, which everybody knows, or Teams or whatever, when you can go and you can sit in a room, right, round tables, which is rather nice. And I've been doing quite a lot of events in Remo because it's got more of a kind of intimate feel to it.
Yeah.
But I'm toying with maybe sometime in 2021 doing some gigs in Remo, because you've got a stage area as well, so we can actually have someone up on the stage, do a few tracks or whatever, and then kind of bring it back down to almost feels like a pub. In fact, some of the people that do events in Remo have done pub type events, so where you can just sit around with a beer and talk to a small group around the table and then have a little bit of entertainment. So I think it's just about being creative and finding ways to use some of these new technologies to do things, and then being able to charge a small fee, because that's the other problem with doing stuff online compared with a live event, is that unless you mentioned Justin Bieber before we went live, unless you're people like Justin Bieber, whereas if he said, I'm doing something live tomorrow, he can charge what he likes for it, and people will pay silly money for it. But for an up and coming artist, for someone to put especially with an online experience, for them to put their hand in their pocket and pay for that, then that becomes difficult. But yeah, that's interesting. So let's go back in time. When did you first start making music?
I didn't start actually creating and distributing until middle of 2017. So I put out my first project in July. It's awful. Don't listen to it. But I've been songwriting.
Oh, you do know now that you've said that lots of people will now go and listen to it.
It's so I can't even listen to it myself. It's that bad.
What was wrong with it? Come on, what was wrong with that?
Oh, the songwriting was very simple and boring, and just I created music that I thought would be popular, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. You know, like if you listen to Come and Get It, for instance, my last album, like you can hear a very, very clear difference in my confidence, my passion, you know, just the way I wrote and recorded versus Summer Vacation, where it was like, oh, everybody does music, you know? There's just a big difference.
But then that's okay, I think. And I think a lot of artists are kind of embarrassed to an extent by where they started compared with where they end up.
Yeah, that's true.
But having said that, you know, for music fans and fans of people, I think they quite enjoy that in a way, because actually, and I'm sure you've been like that with some of the people, and we'll get to that in a minute, but with some of the people that have influenced you, you listen to where there's a point where you get into that artist. There's a point where you know, hook onto what they're doing, but you then want to go back in a way as well and see where they came from, because actually what's nice about that is you're hearing the development and you're hearing them mature as an artist, and then it almost takes you through to, you know, where they're going to go next. So I mean, give some examples. Who is it that you would listen to and be inspired by?
Recently, you know what, I was never a Taylor Swift fan. I thought her music was boo-boo when I was in high school, and then even on into college, but it wasn't until her Reputation album where I was like, ooh, this is relatable, that I was like, okay, maybe let me go back and listen to what she actually put out, because I didn't want to follow the hype back then. And you can see and hear a very clear difference in where her direction went. It's very mature, especially with Folklore and Evermore now. She's an adult now. And you can see that, you know, back then when it was Teardrops on My Guitar versus Evermore now, it's a completely different artist, but she is still amazing in the way that she songwrites and produces and engineers. Like everything she did, you know.
It's a similar thing in a way, isn't it? In a way, and I've listened to both of those latest albums, and I must admit, especially when I listened to the latest album, I was thinking, wow, this is a hell of a good album.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, at the end of the day, I think she's become her own person.
Yep.
Yeah, and her own artist in a way. Whereas you can tell in those early days that, you know, she had a lot of people around her saying you need to sound like this, and your hair needs to look like that, and you need to be doing that. And then there was a period in the middle where she went all pop, and you know, she was finding her new pop friends, etc. And I think she's come out the other side of that a little bit, but in a probably good place. But I think that, you know, in a way, it's still quite nice listening to the early stuff again with her, and you can hear where, you know, where it started, because there was some elements of integrity with her right from the start. But yeah, I think it's finishing up in a much better place, and it'd be quite interesting to see where she ends up. She'll probably end up doing a grunge album at some point, and that will be great. Thanks to Hedge for listening, and somebody else who's remaining nameless. So thanks for that. So that's not an obvious reference point musically for you, right. Taylor Swift. What, in terms of the kind of genre, and perhaps you ought to explain how would you define your own music? What would you say it's?
So my music is kind of like me. I don't like being labeled or boxed into one. I feel as an artist, you shouldn't have to stick to one genre, one type of writing. You know, I feel like that limits you. And so for me, you know, I guess if you had to put a label on it, it wouldn't be hip hop or pop or R&B. It would be like a combination of the two. It would be hip hop.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way for me to define what I do, because, you know, sometimes I'm in a rap mood, but sometimes I want to be like Taylor Swift. You know, it just depends.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't think any artist likes to be pigeonholed or labeled, but there's certain, I think it's fair enough to say there are certain sort of areas where you are more likely to be at any given time. Who knows? You might end up doing a folk album at some point, or whatever. That could happen. But you're certainly in that sort of hip hop sort of area, and as you say, with a poppy kind of vibe to it. So,
Yeah.
is there anyone from that sort of particular genre that you know you listened to in particular?
I am a 90s baby. I love everything from the 80s, 90s. So, you know, TLC, Missy Elliott. Oh my gosh, Missy Elliott. Shout out to Missy Elliott. Salt and Pepper. Oh my gosh. Like, I started my first concert with Push It because, like, they inspired me my entire life. That's just, like, those three right there, just like, if I had to define my music taste, it's them, you know? But yeah, just anything from the 80s, 90s, from Madonna to, you know, In Vogue, even like, I'm trying to think of some rock. I can't think right now, but I listen to everything. So every genre. And if it's 80s, 90s, it's probably in my music library.
So the people that you've mentioned,
yes,
have a connection in a way, which is that they've all got kind of a feel good factor.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed from your lyrics, you deal sometimes with some very difficult things, which is great. But actually, there's a little bit of an oxymoron with some of the stuff that you do, because actually some of your tunes are quite jolly.
Yes.
But yeah, so is that for you? Is that, you know, is that part of your a deliberate style, or is it that's just the way it comes out for you, or you feel that that's a useful vehicle in a way that you want to put over a serious message, but you don't want to, you know, drown everybody with it in terms of style?
So, you know, for me, I kind of write the way I feel. So if I hear a beat, whatever comes out, I'll try and work around that. But songs like Insincerely and Taboo, you know, those songs are important to me. One, because they're from a time in my life that was very, you know, I didn't think I was going to get past it. And I know there's so many other people who experience that daily and don't think they're going to get past it. And they don't think anybody can relate to them or understand what they're going through, because in the society that we live in today, that's a taboo topic. You can't talk about depression. You can't talk about anxiety. You can't talk about feeling sad, because suddenly you're weak if you're vulnerable. And I disagree with that, especially in men. Men cannot talk about how they feel because you're suddenly categorized as gay or, you know, feminine. And those aren't, I don't think that's how it should be portrayed. I think everybody should talk about how they feel, because maybe we can prevent suicides. Maybe we can prevent, you know, that kind of heartache and heartbreak that comes from those feelings being suppressed. I think if more artists were to talk about it, like Justin Bieber's song Lonely, that song hits me right in my heart because I've been there. I felt that. Maybe not to his extent, because I'm not a famous, you know, artist, but I've felt lonely. I feel lonely a lot of times. And for, you know, somebody on that caliber to understand what somebody like me, who's a nobody, feels, you know, sometimes regularly, and is able to embrace it and talk about it openly on the platform that he does have, I think that's beautiful. And I think that should happen more often. I don't think we should be afraid to talk about what we're thinking and feeling. I had a cousin recently kill himself, and nobody even, like, there was no suspected. He was always so happy. So the fact that he had to take his own life because he felt that was the best option, it's terrifying, because we had no idea.
Yeah.
That's just it. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what they're thinking, because we're in that time in our lives where society has told us, don't say that. And I want to change that. So yes, I have fun songs like Work. I have fun songs, you know, But Insincerely and Taboo are, they're important too, especially to me, because like I said, Insincerely was written 8 years ago. That's not something I wrote recently. That is one of the first songs I ever wrote, and nobody knew that. I have songs like Me, Myself, and I, where I talk about holding a gun to my head, and nobody in my family knew that that was a real situation that happened New Year's Eve 2010. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know about each other, that we don't know about people that we know, that we think we know deeper than anything. And I think we should talk about it.
I absolutely agree. Just prior to Christmas, one of the other things I do is run online events and to do with health and well-being.
Yes.
And we did an event November time and had a couple of guys on, and one of them in particular, Ben Seal, who I will link you up with following this, has started a new hashtag campaign, and it's actually a project as well. It's not just a hashtag. He's been raising money and then sending that money out to various mental health charities that need it in particular areas. But the hashtag was Respect Mental Health. And it was, oh my goodness, on LinkedIn where he first started it, etc. It just absolutely went viral, because I think so many people actually, related to it and could understand that how important this is. So, yeah. Especially men, and one of the events that we talked to, we had them talking to a group of people that professionally, as part of what they do, help with adjustments in the office, which is something I've been involved with as well for people that may be struggling on a day-to-day basis with at work. And a lot of the provision for people around mental health within the workplace is just not good enough at the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's something that needs to be addressed. There needs to be an awful lot more training. There needs to be a lot more signposting to the right people. There needs to be a lot more time given to people with mental health issues to be able to tell their story to somebody. And you can't just process them like someone with a foot injury, for example. Thanks, Hedge. Yeah, definitely a topic that needs more exposure.
Absolutely, I agree.
Hedge is a musician, by the way. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's fundamental that and it's great that you're writing stuff that's very, very heartfelt and very raw, but it's also very accessible, which I think and that's what I was getting to, really. I think that's really good. I think because sometimes you hear stuff that's quite emotional and dark in an area, but actually it's quite inaccessible from a material point of view. But what I like about what you're doing is that you're making it very accessible, and almost sometimes you might just catch onto it first from a hook and go, oh, I like that. And then you realize what the words are about. And that's clever, because you've caught people on two levels as opposed to one. So no, well done. Round of applause. And please do keep it up. So what other subjects do you feel that might be coming out of you in 2021? Because lockdown and COVID and everything else, no one's wanted to write about it up until now, because it would just be almost too corny. But it's obviously going to affect people, and it's obviously going to affect artists in terms of what they write.
Yeah.
Do you think it will have had an influence on you in terms of what you're going to write about this year, or not at all?
You know what? I think I tweeted this a few days ago. Somebody had, asked me to feature on a song and sing a hook, about, depression and anxiety. And I was all about it when he first brought it up, about a month ago. And when I sat down last week to write to it, I couldn't. I was like, my mindset has, it's changed, and I've told myself I'm not going to link on to, or, latch on to those kind of songs right now because of where we're at, as a country, as a planet, really. I want to focus on being positive and uplifting. And although I know that those kind of songs are important as well, obviously, I just put out the video for Insincerely, but everything that I've attempted to write has been 100% positive. Like, one of the songs that we just finished for Mix and Master for the deluxe album is called Alive. And that song is like, it's my theme song right now, because it just explains where my mind is at. It's just, I don't want to keep, focusing on the negatives, the quarantine, the COVID, the setbacks, the trauma that came with 2020. 2021 is a whole new year, and I think we should embrace it as a new year and stop, dragging 2020 with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's going to still be a tough year.
Oh yeah.
But I think we've gained some armor along the way. I think it's still a new year, and I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
Which, interestingly, one of my favorite artists have decided to call their tour at the end of 2021 light at the end of the tunnel, which I thought was quite nice, actually. I thought, it's very optimistic and sort of heading in the right direction. And I think that should be the attitude to take, and that we should be thinking, at some point we're going to get out of this. At some point, hopefully, it will be a bit of a weird and distant memory, and one day we're put our hands in our pockets and pull out an old mask and go, oh God, I remember that. what was that all about? Yeah. And we'll all be back to hugging each other at gigs and diving on top of people, etc., which will be great. But yeah, I mean, so talk to me about how you go about creating your music. So you write lyrics. Do you tend to, you said just then that someone wanted you to work with them and put something over something, so there's an element of collaboration there. Do you have different ways of writing, depending upon what's going on at the time? So for some projects, do you find that you write that you've had the lyrics laying around for a while and then you're looking for something for it, or do you have someone send you some beats and some tunes or whatever, and you then write to that? Does it work both ways for you?
It works both ways. So I have hundreds upon hundreds of songs. I have a whole notebook under my bed that's filled with songs. I
hope that's insured, right?
I'm sorry?
I hope that's insured.
I have, my notes folder on my phone, which has over 300 songs sitting in it. Some of them are, out into the world. Some of them are not. A lot of times, like the Come and Get It album was in the works from the beginning of 2019 all the way up until August of 2020. And then it released in October. So sometimes I'll hear a beat and then I'll just write. Or sometimes I'll hear a beat and I'll be like, ooh, I have the lyrics for that already. And then, I'll just tweak some things here and there. Like Booty Gains, for instance. That song had been written since 2016. And then I just changed the hook a little bit. It just depends on what I hear or what I'm thinking. Because I'm constantly songwriting. Like, it's funny because if I go to church, that's all I do the entire service is just write. So it just depends. If I hear a beat, like, Polar Lenny sent me a folder of beats, and there was one I was like, ooh, I have the song for this. I need to pay for this beat. Got the exclusive. And then I was like, got the song. I just tweaked a couple things and it's ready for the, for the deluxe album. But then there's other times where I'll hear a beat and I'm like, okay, I need to think on this. So like, Young and Icy sent me a folder of beats, and there was one beat that I had already gone through a store, and it was actually in my cart, and he had sent it to me in the the email and I was like, man, I really like this beat. What could I do with it? And so I was like, all right, I'm going to pay for it. So I went to his website and it was already in the cart. And I was like, okay, apparently I've been thinking on it for a minute. So yeah.
So it was meant to be.
That's what I told him. I was like, look, it was already in my cart. Yep, let's get it. So it just depends.
That's lovely. And how do you meet these people? How do you find these collaborators?
Social media. I'll get random emails all the time from from producers on Instagram because my email's on there, and they'll just send me folders of beats. And sometimes I like them, most times I don't. It's the same thing on Twitter. You know, they know somebody who knows me who mentioned me in a tweet, and so they'll DM me or something, or I'll DM them.
So this is the great side of social media, isn't it? I mean, social media just makes the world absolutely tiny. Yep. You know, whereabouts in America are you?
I'm in Texas now, but I'm from California.
Right. Okay. And I am in, not so sunny Somerset at the moment. It's very, very cold actually at the moment. But there you go. And we can just come together and do something from other sides of the world, which is brilliant. And, musically and technology is massively improving all the time in terms of what you can do for that. I mean, to think about, you will have heard all of those collaboration singles that were done over the period of COVID. I don't know. Did you ever hear the Foo Fighters track that was redone with lots of different people singing on it? No, check that one out. But there, where you get masses of different singers and you've got, it's layered and people can just put all that together from all over the world and they don't have to be in the same recording studio. Going back a few years, we would have never dreamt that you could do that. You'd have to get people together in the same place to be able to do that. But now, these things are possible. So that's a real positive for musicians, I think. Being able to collaborate like that all over the world is brilliant. But sadly, the downside of it, I guess, is going back to what you were saying a minute ago with the mental health thing, is that it puts stresses on people that never existed before. I mean, do you, in terms of, because you're younger than me, in terms of your generation and social media, do you think there's some lessons that we need to start learning in terms of social media and mental health?
Yeah. I don't know if you follow Ben Enfield on Twitter, but he brought it up with me one day and it didn't occur to me until he said it, but Instagram is toxic. Like, they set these standards, these influencers, that this is how life is supposed to be, and if you don't have it, your life sucks. And so, especially younger people, I'm older than I look, by the way, these 16 to 21-year-olds believe that if they're not living like these influencers on Instagram and TikTok, they're never going to amount to anything. And that's an unfortunate mindset to have and to believe in. And I think we need to kill that. Cancel culture is another one that needs to be left in 2020. I don't think that's good for anybody's mindset, famous or not. It's just not something that we should be doing. A lot of fan bases are a little crazy. Got the Believers, the Harry Styles little people, the Arianators or whatever they're called, the Advisors. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're a little crazy. They can first of all, they should all be FBI agents because they be finding stuff that I didn't even know was like possible. Second of all, they need help because they be finding stuff that we didn't know was possible. I just think there's, it should probably be limited.
It's so difficult though, isn't it? Because I think for every negative there's a positive. Absolutely. And I think it's just about
how you use it, really.
It really is. Going back to, as I say, some of the artists that I followed for years and some of their sort of social media fan bases, etc. Very different because in one group there's one band in particular that I follow, and everyone in that fan base is hugely loyal of the the band, but also, you know, there's a beautiful respect for each other. And even when you go to gigs, people look out for each other. And if somebody needs something, or, you know, someone's, you know, if a fan hasn't got enough money to live that month, or, you know, someone's needs a lift to a concert or something, or someone will help, right?
Right.
People will reach out and help. And I think when you build a beautiful online family like that are actually genuinely concerned with the well-being of each other and are coming together through music and that connectivity, then that's great. But I think what you're talking about is the fanaticism that's probably always been there around pop. Did you ever come across an artist? This is going back some, but they sort of like broke the mold. DC Talk. Did you ever come across them?
DC Talk.
Yeah.
Yes, I love them. Jesus Freak. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. You're amazed by my volume of music. But yeah, brilliant. And great voices as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah. Over here in the UK, there was a band as well who were massive called Worldwide Message Tribe. I don't know whether you ever came across them, but they were very much sort of rap and you know, big beats and stuff, and, you know, did some great stuff in churches, which was fantastic. And I actually, for a while, I was involved with helping a project called Grace, which did stuff at festivals, which was Christian festivals. But they and literally they just had a big top, and then it was just sort of ambient beats and stuff, and it did sort of alternative worship stuff, which was really quite interesting as well. So, but you said when you were in church, do you go regularly, by the way?
Not as much right now, especially with COVID, but before this year, yeah.
Yeah, but you said you sit there writing lyrics. Now, how does that go down with the minister? Was that okay?
I don't know. My head is usually always down, just writing.
Does the minister think that you're taking notes on the sermon?
Probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there thinking they're really interested in what I'm saying.
My mom would always say that. She'd be like, "So what did you learn in church? Let me see your notes." And then she'd look at me and be like, "Really? Another song?" Actually, one of the songs that I put out, which one was it? It was not a very appropriate song, but it was written in church. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you were learning about inappropriate thing in what was being taught, and it just had to come out.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, church is a place to learn about morals one way or the other, you know. So you're gonna hear bad and good stuff in church. So, you know, who knows what will come out. I think it's quite interesting, actually, what some of the relationships between people over the years. I once knew an artist called Martin Joseph over here, who was a Christian artist, and he spent some of his time out on the golf course with Alice Cooper. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, and they got on like a house on fire. You know, but the differences between them musically couldn't have been further afield. But I think that's another thing that's great about music, isn't it? Which is that even if people have got very different sort of social backgrounds or belief systems or you know, different things, they can come together through music, etc. You also actually write about sort of lesbian and gay rights.
Yes.
Difficult just a conversation with your parents about starting that, or no, it was quite easy with your parents?
So with my parents and my family, it was very open arms, unconditional love. They
Yeah,
never made me feel like I was anything less than who I am. It was when the school found out my senior year that it all went to hell. I was
really.
bullied incessantly. I received text messages all the time telling me to kill myself. I'm going to hell. You're a sinner. This, the other. Um, it got pretty bad senior year, like to the point to where my basketball coach wouldn't talk to college recruiters for me. So that sucked. But it took me a while after high school to like even like talk about it, because I was so scared that I was going to get the same reaction that I got in high school. And it wasn't until this past year that I was like, you know what? I am who I am, like take it or leave it. And that's how, work came about. Was I wasn't even going to release it. I had set that release in January or February of last year. And right before it was about to drop, I was like, I'm pulling it. And my friend B Funk, he's like my brother, the producer, or no, the engineer, that kid Markush, and my mom were like, don't touch it, leave it. And I was like, okay. And it was reciprocated so well on social medias. And there was a couple negative comments on the YouTube video, which is to be expected, and that's fine. And it's always men who have something to say. But I didn't get that reaction I did in high school. And that just, that made it a little bit easier for me to, finally just let that out. But my family, they're nothing but supportive. And, I couldn't be more grateful for that, because I know plenty of people who didn't get that type of family love when, they decided to express who they were.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because, why have a child if you're not going to embrace and love them unconditionally? It's just
I mean, I think it's something that is far more accepted than it ever was.
Yes. Now.
In previous generations, but that still doesn't make it easy.
No, at all.
And I think that's probably the biggest problem now, is that, in a way, in that there is a lot of acceptance from a lot of society, but there is still those people that don't accept. And because there's such good acceptance from, I'd say, the majority, I think perhaps people just assume that it's going to be an easy ride for people to come out and say that they're of a particular orientation sexually. And I think that's not the case. So,
especially for men, it's such a double standard for them. If a lot of guys are okay with women being gay, but the second a guy expresses, bisexuality or, being gay, then all of a sudden they're just disgusted. And I don't understand that. It doesn't, and that's just it. People use that to define other people, and that's not who I am. Like, that is a part of me, yeah, but it's not who I am. Just like somebody who commits a crime is not defined by that crime as they, endure their life journey.
It's almost like, why do you actually need to know that?
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Like, you don't come out and be like, I'm straight. This is my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen like that. So why does it need to happen? I don't know. I'm a little indifferent about that, but it's not easy. It shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be something that, deters people from wanting to be friends with you or wanting to get to know you or listen to your music. It just shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
But then that's a part of life.
Yeah. I still think, I think part of it is that we're still living cross-generational at the moment. And I think that certainly, because as you've seen, I've got lots of kids of lots of different ages. And I think, I see it with my children. I know that I grew up in a time that was homophobic racist, sexist, you know, all of those things. The 1970s were not a time when, you know, everything was just accepted, and there was a lot of, you know, gender differences, and you had to be a certain kind of person if you're a male, and you have to be a certain kind of person if you're female, and certain things are accepted and not accepted. And I just think that, you know, it's difficult because at the moment we're a generation that's still living with some of the ways that we were brought up, and the generation above us have still got a lot of those issues and complexes, etc. And yet, as you go down the generations, you get to the youngest generation now. I mean, just in terms of the way that they're schooled, for example, they're just difference. Let's say that is just not put in front of them in the same way. Absolutely. And that's why they're just, you know, and we have to accept that children naturally don't see difference anyway.
Absolutely. That's true.
So it's only when you teach them that that's different over there, you know, you should see that, because that's really bad. You know, that's when, you know, it then goes in. But children just don't see it. And, you know, there's been so many good stuff, so many good things that have happened in the education system and in the teaching system that have changed all of that. I mean, you know, like kids programs, right? Yeah. Kids programs now, that they will feature people with one arm or you know, a leg missing, or with cerebral palsy, or with Down syndrome. Yeah. And people of different colors, or people of different sexuality, etc. And so the difference is there, right? And it's okay, you know, and there's no questions being asked about it because it's okay. But I think it's a hang on from a generation that, you know, were taught that it was wrong. And the best thing we can do is just tell our children that generation was wrong. Really, that's all we can do about it. And hopefully some of it will rub off, etc. Do like your curtains, by the way.
Thank you.
They're quite sort of late 80s, early 90s.
Yes.
Which is, yeah, is that a theme in your house? Do you sort of try and decor wise yourself back into retro? Oh yeah, okay, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm a little different.
Yeah, you like a bit of Audrey Hepburn, and yeah, it's good. You know, that whole Parisian thing, that's very romantic, etc. Is there a romantic inside of you? Are you quite romantic as a person?
I don't know. Probably.
That's a difficult question, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I'd like to say yes, because I'm a very selfless person. I'm more, you know, I'm a pleaser, you know, like I want to be somebody's rock. So I guess, yeah, in an aspect. Yeah.
We'd have to ask a significant other.
Right. I'll let you know when I find one.
and then we'll find out. So I want to say thank you for your time today. What can we, and we'll probably catch up later in the year, but what can we expect now from KARMAA over the next few months? What are you working towards?
Hopefully shows. I have 2 singles dropping this month. I have another music video dropping next month. And in March, I have a collab EP with Matthew Seth from Brazil. And then April is the deluxe album. And then I don't know where I'm at there. That'll catch me up though. But really,
when you say it's the deluxe album, is that the title of it, or is it it's the album but it's deluxe?
Yeah, so it's the Come and Get It album I dropped in October.
The last album, but the deluxe version of it.
Yeah.
That's such a that's such a thing, isn't it? The deluxe album these days.
It is now. I didn't know it was, but so when I first was putting together Come and Get It, I had like 26 songs, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's not going to work. So I cut it down to 16, which was still, iffy, especially with, society today. They like the 2-minute songs and less, the TikTok songs. That's not who I am though, so I didn't. So what I did was I took songs that I had previously released and was revamping. I rewrote, new mixes, new engineering and everything. And I saved those for the deluxe album. And then I added like 6 new songs. And then I will be pulling some of the slower songs from the original. And then I'm doing new mixes on 2 of the tracks from the original. So the deluxe album will literally be just like upbeat club, bouncy songs. There won't be anything slow or, downbeat. It'll just be all positive vibes.
Yeah, like a reworking of the original. Yeah, which is good. I mean, I think people are taking deluxe to a completely different level. There's one band that I've been following who have just released the same album in 2 versions. Right, so they've literally recorded the whole of the album twice. Yeah, with different musical parts intertwined within the same songs. So you've got like 2 slightly different versions of the same song, and then different people taking different leads in terms of vocals or instruments throughout it. Now it's quite interesting. Yeah,
interesting. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, so you end up listening to the same thing, but almost as though it's a different band doing the same thing.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe that's an idea for you going forward in this next year. 2 versions of the next album. You could have, you could have an A version and a B version of it, and it could almost be like, duality. Be brilliant. a lot of work, but or maybe just do it on one song to begin with. Maybe a track and just have like 2 very different versions of it, which I suppose is a bit like a remix. Doing it over a whole album is a lot of work, and I think it's the album that they did as well was about 80 minutes long as well. So they've had to do 160 minutes of recording.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot of recording time. So the deluxe album, and we're hoping that's going to come out around sort of April time. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's 1 song left to record, and the rest are in mix and master if they're not done yet. But yeah, we're almost done. We're coming up on it.
Okay. And if there was and if someone called tomorrow and said, I'm going to work with KARMAA this week, and it could be the person of your dreams, who would it be?
Missy Elliott.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Her mind is so beautiful, the way she thinks, the way she acts, tweets. And her music was just beyond its time when she started releasing back in the late 90s. She's a songwriter for so many different artists, so many different genres. She's a producer. She's an engineer. I would love to even just sit down and have coffee with her and just talk and pick her brain, because I think she's just phenomenal. Well,
that's going to be our tweet campaign throughout 2021, is to get Missy Elliott to do anything, even if it's just breathe on your next album.
Yeah, exactly. Just say KARMAA, please.
just introduce you.
Songs, she'll be like new jazzy, or that would be so dope. Like just new KARMAA, just by Missy Elliott. Like that would make my whole life just done. Just
those few words.
That's
recorded, put on it, boom, done. Yeah, I get that.
That's done.
That's the album. That's the album in the bag. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Even with little ones coming in, I hope that didn't put you off?
No, that was so cute.
You know, they've been back to school for the first time today. Fortunately, our two youngest have managed to get to school because my wife is a critical care worker, so that's good. But I mean, it's strange times for the young people. I think it's really difficult for them. But you know, great that they've got people like yourself as role models to listen to, etc. And it's been an absolute pleasure. So thanks for coming on. Hopefully, you'll get some people watch this that have never heard of you before and will now give you a listen. Where is the best place to listen to KARMAA?
I am on all streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, you name it, I'm probably on there.
Okay, so one of the things that will happen is that I will edit this down and put it on Spotify, and what I'll do is I'll interlace it with some bits of your music so that I force people to listen to it, whether they like it or not, and hopefully they will. And then they, you know, being Spotify, the one good thing about it is that they can then just click on those bits and it will take them to the rest of the track. So that, you know, that in fact they might go, actually, I don't want to listen to this boring git waffle on, but I do want to listen to that track. So that will be the end of it. I'll make sure there's one right at the beginning in case they don't want to listen to me at all. What track should we include from Spotify to go with this?
That is 100% up to you. I have no preference. I love all my songs.
You're just being modest. I'm just gonna put loads of them in there, and then
that's fine.
and then we've covered all bases. Thank you very, very much for doing this.
No, thank you. I appreciate this.
I hope it's been not too painful, and we shall catch up sometime in 2021 later down the line when the deluxe version drops. And will you be doing a video for it at all, for any element of it? Yeah. Okay. So when we come back and do something later, then what we also do is play a bit of the video as well, because that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yes.
We can bring that in, and so you have to send me the actual video itself rather than YouTube or whatever, and then I can actually play it off of this stream and again force people to watch it, which will be great. Come on, people. So thank you very much, and I'll speak to you later in the year. Bye for now. Bye.